One of the greatest challenges of the Christian life is not simply beginning well, it is staying the path. We all know what it's like to face distractions, temptations, and competing voices with the promise happiness, but ultimately lead us away from God's best. The book of Proverbs is written to help God's people walk wisely through a world filled with foolishness. Proverbs 1 through 9 serve as an extended introduction to the entire book. Rather than offering short, independent sayings, these chapters contain a series of conversations from a father to his son, urging him to choose wisdom over folly. The father repeatedly places before his son two paths: the path of wisdom, which leads to life, and the path of foolishness, which leads to destruction. Proverbs 7 and 8 stand as a climax of these opening chapters. In chapter 7, wisdom warns us about the danger of temptation. And in chapter 8, wisdom invites us into a life that God desires for us. The whole realm of Proverbs 9 through 12 begin to show us what life looks like in everyday decisions, relationships, speech, work, and character. As we consider these chapters together, one message remains clear. If we are going to stay the path God has for us, we must avoid temptation, pursue wisdom, and cultivate a reverent fear of the Lord. So let's look at those. Number 1, staying the path means avoiding temptation. Proverbs 7 tells the story of a young man who lacks judgment, as many of us do. What is striking is that his downfall doesn't begin with the temptation itself, it begins much earlier. Verse 8 tells us he was passing along the street near her corner. He placed himself where temptation was likely to find him. The lesson is simple but profound. We often think our greatest defense against temptation is our willpower, but Proverbs teaches us something very different. Wisdom often avoids the battle altogether. Joseph, back in Genesis, fled from Potiphar's wife before temptation overtook him. Jesus taught his disciples to pray, "Lead us not into temptation." See, the wise person recognizes that no one is immune. Many of our greatest spiritual failures begin with seemingly harmless compromises. Lingering where we shouldn't, entertaining conversations we also shouldn't. Consuming media we know pulls our hearts away from God. Believing we're strong enough to handle situations that we cannot. Wisdom asks a different question. Instead of asking, how close can I get before falling? Wisdom asks, how far away can I stay so I continue to walk with God? Staying the path often requires choosing the longer, safer road rather than the easier shortcut. Staying the path means avoiding temptation, and number 2, it also means pursuing wisdom. See, after the warning in chapter 7 comes Scripture's most beautiful invitations. Instead of seductive voice of temptation, Proverbs 8 presents the voice of wisdom herself, crying in the streets for everyone to hear. Wisdom is not hidden. God is not trying to keep us guessing. He graciously calls us toward life. Wisdom says it in 8:17. I love those who love me, and those who seek me diligently find me. Notice the contrast. In chapter 7, the foolish young man wandered aimlessly until temptation found him. Yet in chapter 8, the wise person intentionally seeks wisdom. That reminds us that spiritual growth never happens accidentally. No one drifts into wisdom. We drift towards compromise unless we intentionally pursue God's truth. Seeking wisdom means spending time in God's Word, listening to godly counsel, praying for discernment, and allowing God's truth to shape our decisions before difficult moments arise. James later echoes the invitation when he writes that if anyone lacks wisdom, they should ask God, who gives graciously and generously. God delights in giving wisdom to those who seek it. So why don't we seek it? Staying the path means avoiding temptation. It means pursuing wisdom. And it also means that it begins with the fear of the Lord. Perhaps the key verse to these chapters is found in chapter 8, verse 13. To fear the Lord is to hate evil. I hate pride and arrogance, evil behavior, and perverse speech. Many people misunderstand the fear of the Lord. It is not cowering in terror before God. It is loving Him so deeply, revering Him so completely, and honoring Him so sincerely that we hate whatever dishonors Him. Notice what wisdom specifically identifies in this verse. We are called to hate evil. A growing believer doesn't merely avoid sin because of its consequences. They increasingly hate what separates them from God's holiness. We are called also here to hate pride and arrogance. Pride is often the first step away from wisdom. The proud person assumes they know more than God. The arrogant person believes they are above correction. Humility, however, keeps us teachable. It reminds us that we always need God's direction. It reminds us that He should always be the leader and we should always be the follower. And in this verse, we are called to hate perverted speech. Our words reveal the conditions of our heart. Matthew teaches us that out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. Chapters 10 through 12 repeatedly emphasize righteous speech, truthful words, gentle answers, honest lips, and encouraging conversation. Remaining on God's path involves not only guarding our actions, but also guarding our tongues. If we want to know whether wisdom is growing within us, one place to look is our speech. Are our words truthful? Are they gracious? Do they build others up? Or do they spread gossip, pride, anger, or deceit? Wisdom transforms the way we speak because wisdom transforms the heart. These verses and chapters come to head and now go into chapters 9 through 12. Beginning in chapter 9, Proverbs transitions into shorter sayings that describe everyday wisdom. These are wonderful. I hope you get a chance to really dive deep into these several chapters. These chapters repeatedly compare the righteous and the wicked. They show us that staying the path is not one dramatic decision, but about hundreds of ordinary choices. The wise person values integrity over shortcuts. They work diligently rather than lazily. They welcome correction rather than resent it. They choose truthful speech instead of deception. They cultivate humility instead of pride. Little decisions made consistently over time shape the direction of our lives. Character is formed one decision at a time. In summary, Proverbs 7 through 12 reminds us that every day, we are choosing between two paths. One path looks attractive for the moment, but ends in regret. The other sometimes and often requires discipline, humility, and patience, and sometimes all of them, but it leads to life. If we want to stay the path, the chapters in Proverbs remind us and encourage us to avoid tempting situations rather than assuming we can handle them. They remind us to actively seek wisdom, believing God gladly gives it to those who ask. Fear the Lord, which means hating evil, rejecting pride and arrogance, and refusing perverted speech, and that we practice wisdom daily through faithful choices that honor God. The good news is that God has not left us to walk this path alone. He continually calls us through His Word, His Spirit, and the example of Christ, the one who perfectly walked the path of wisdom, and now empowers His followers to do the same. Let us close with these wonderful, encouraging words from Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. Let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus. When our eyes remain fixed on Jesus, on Christ, and our hearts remain open to his wisdom, he enables us not only to begin the journey of faith, but to stay the path.